From the Yonkers Statesman, September 19th, 1916. Headline: Infantile paralysis is checked. A period of 72 hours has now elapsed since any additional case of infantile paralysis was reported to the Health Bureau, and the authorities are encouraged in the hope that the spread of the disease in the city has finally been checked. It is believed that even if one or two more cases are reported, they will be sporadic in character. Headline: Trying to avert spread of strike. New York City Mayor Mitchell called into conference with him today representatives of the Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association to try to avert the threatened strike of 700,000 workers in sympathy with the street railway employees. The mayor has received warning from the labor leaders that unless he and the committee of businessmen settle the Carmen strike by Thursday night, a general walkout of virtually all the labor unions in New York City and vicinity will be ordered. Representatives of about 30 unions united in calling upon their organizations to strike if settlement with the transit companies were not forthcoming. The street railway strike was extended to Queens County early today when 600 conductors and motormen of the New York and Queens County Railroad went out in protest against the use of their members to operate cars and break the strike in Manhattan. Union leaders asserted the 14 streetcar lines in Queens were tied up. Headline: Use Women Campaign Train. The Women's Campaign Train, which is being sent out by the Women's Committee of the National Use Alliance, will mark an epoch in the history of the part that women have played in politics. Starting from New York, the writers and speakers who are to tell the men and women of the nation exactly why they are to work and vote for Hughes are to get a rousing send-off at the Grand Central Terminal on Monday, October 2nd. In his main speeches, Mr. Hughes made it plain that he was not attacking labor or the equity of proposed increases of wages for the railroad men. He was simply contending for the all-important principle of arbitration as the right means of settlement of such questions. Headline: Left Americans to Die. Colonel Roosevelt says President Wilson and Navy Secretary Daniels are guilty. Colonel Theodore Roosevelt has made public a letter written by him in which Mr. Roosevelt declares that Rear Admiral Mayo advised President Wilson and Navy Secretary Daniels of the peril to which Americans were exposed at Tampico, and that, with full knowledge of this peril, Messrs. Wilson and Daniels peremptorily instructed Mayo to withdraw, leaving American men, women, and children to their fate. Washington dispatches referring to Mr. Roosevelt's letter say that each of the many excuses which have been made by Daniels is absurd, according to naval experts, and that the real reason Mayo's ships were ordered away was that Mr. Wilson feared their presence at Tampico would irritate the Mexicans. Headline: Open new battle in Champagne. Bad weather has set in along the Somme front, and the Anglo-French offensive is halted. Both British and French war offices report the cessation of heavy attacks, which had won for them many square miles of new ground. Meanwhile, the Germans have made a diversion in the Champagne district, making 5 successive attacks against the Russians there. The Russians checked each drive with artillery and machine gun fire. And from a front-page advertisement: Have you voted? This is Primary Day, Tuesday, September 19th, 1919. And that's the news from Yonkers 100 years ago today.